Welcome back to Sonic Speed Reading, and I know we just got ourselves introduced to Evan Stanley's writing, as she's taken over as the new head writer, but that doesn't mean Ian Flynn is out completely, as he has returned to tie up some loose ends from the Metal Virus saga, that specifically being the Deadly Six. Yes, that's right, all of your favorite Sonic villains have finally returned. Look, in all seriousness, I've genuinely been enjoying, well, Zavok specifically, in terms of IDW and his place in this world and his interactions with these characters. And there are some fun things that happen in this arc, so let's just jump into it. We kick this story off in Winterburg, which is what you'd expect. It's a wintry town. We have this lovely polygonal Sonic ice statue, looking very Sonic the Fighters there. And we jump into a fight between Eggman and Sonic. It's surprising how long it's been since we've seen these two actually duke it out. And it really is just classic Sonic and Eggman banter. And I really love how Ian writes these two characters. Obviously, I've sung the praises of his work for quite a while now. And I love this snowman mech design with this snowflake buzzsaw. It's just, fantastic. Long and short of it, Sonic is trying to stop Eggman from taking over this town, but Eggy's not here for the town. He's just trying to stop the Zeti as they are still on the loose. And I love that he calls out Sonic saying like, hey, since you can't seem to handle it, I gotta take care of it myself. And Sonic's retorting like, what are you blaming me for? You're the one that brought him to this world thanks to your Plague-a-Palooza. To which Eggman says, it wasn't my fault, that was Starline's fault. And Sonic says, well, that was your lackey, so it's your fault. I like that they're passing the blame back and forth from each other, not realizing that they're both partially involved with this ridiculous mess. But I do appreciate that we are still talking about the Metal Virus because this was the latest crazy event that happened for this world and it's left a lasting impact, so expect to hear about it occasionally going forward. But while they bicker, they are watched by the teal raisin known as Master Zik of the Deadly Six. From there he learns that Zavok is indeed still alive, and we know that as well if you followed along with the Bad Guys miniseries. And ironically, since both Sonic and Eggman are so focused on each other, they let the Zeti escape without them ever realizing he was there to begin with. And of course, we throw in that infamous Baldy McNosehair joke there. Yes, I know it's meta humor, you're gonna be okay. I promise you guys, it's gonna be fine. We then spend the next few pages just following along with the rest of the six. Starting off with Zavok, who is still being carried from that egg pond as he was at the end of the Bad Guys miniseries, mostly talking to himself, catching up everybody if you haven't been reading up to that point. He's still not doing great from his fight with Eggman, but he's a determined son of a gun, so he keeps on going. And from here, we're going to be watching Zavok catch up with the rest of his crew now that he's free from jail and no longer associated with Starline. First, catching up with Ziz, who is trying his best to catch a fish, not handling it super well. Zavok's not too happy with, well, the state he's in currently. Ziz tries to make excuses saying, okay, everybody went back to normal, I have no more control over them, and they kind of kicked me out of town. To which Zavok says, you are Zeti. You are one of the Deadly Six. You do not survive, you conquer. And yeah, they just summon the moon mech that usually accompanies Ziz, and the two of them just start wrecking the nearby town. Oh my god. Soon the town is nothing but rubble, and Zavok forces a doctor to patch up his wounds. Once they finish up, the doctor asks Zavok if it's okay if he goes and tends to his neighbors. Zavok says no and then pushes his head down. Zavok, that's so rude. That's not how you asked for a favor from your partner. I'm kidding. They're actually implying that they murdered the doctor right then. Yeah, that's that's way more appropriate. Zavok turns to Ziz saying that God, it's so hard to say their stupid names together. Anyway, Zavok turns to Ziz and says that the town was pristine before they began. Did he do nothing with the Zombots? And Ziz says, of course I did. And I mean, yeah, obviously it's Ziz. But something called the Restoration rolled in and fixed everything. And Zavok ponders on the name. We then move on over to our next town, Vista View, where we see a caged Sama. Oh, that is just a lovely visual, isn't it? He's mostly been behaving because they've been feeding him on the hour. He's a simple creature of simple needs, so yeah, it hasn't been too hard to keep him contained. But that doesn't last long, as Zavok has arrived to remind him that he does not wait for his food. He consumes all. As Purple and Yellow start wrecking the town, Zavok continues to gather information on the Restoration. And looks like he's trying to actually understand their way of life. He doesn't seem to understand why they rebuild and protect. He sees it as them working together to undo everything that the Zeti have done. Thankfully, the rest of the book isn't just Zavok going to a town one by one to rescue the rest of the Deadly Six, because Master Zik has been at work as well. And he catches up with Zavok with Xena and Zor in tow. I hate saying their names. I do love this dynamic between these characters here. They all see Zavok as their leader, and Zavok does rule them with fear, but he shows the utmost respect to Master Zik. So when Zik asks him, now that the Deadly Six are once more, what are we gonna do? And Zavok responds that, well, we're gonna go to these towns that resisted us and just destroy them. And Zik responds with a, that's it. I love seeing that Zavok is showing a little nervousness, like he's a child that's letting a parent down. But yeah, these two just kind of discuss what they're gonna be doing going forward. Zik says that he understands that desire, but it's too obvious. He asks Zavok, I assume you left nothing but misery in your wake? And Zavok says, I assume the screams led you to us. And Zik says that you have now set a pattern. They are far from their home base. They are in the land of their enemies. They're numerous and they're organized, and it won't take them long to realize who their targets are and to properly prepare for them. To which Zavok says, well, then we're going to face them on this battlefield, or we will fall in glorious battle. Zik says, yeah, that's an admirable end to be sure, but we can achieve so much more. And he suggests that they go and tear them out at their roots. The Restoration has been the one that's been undoing everything that they managed to destroy during the metal virus. So in turn, they need to go to the source and destroy the Restoration. And to do that, they're going to try and scatter the heroes. They're going to try and establish some sort of pattern, as they already have been doing by wrecking towns. So they'll continue to do just that. And after it seems like they have a pattern going, and in turn have the heroes prep for their arrival in these other towns, they'll instead double back towards Restoration HQ and tackle it while it's at its weakest. And that's exactly what they do, as we see them attack Orchardville, which we did see Zor attack back during the metal virus. And now that Zavok knows what to look for when it comes to resistance fighters, he pins a couple of them down and makes sure that they're passing the word along of their attacks. And it works exactly as planned, as we switch our attention over to Restoration HQ, where we have Jewel talking to the Chaotix, and they immediately assume that, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. The Deadly Six are out for revenge, and they just got sloppy about it. And that in turn gets passed on to Sonic, who is still hanging out with Eggman with their winter retreat as he blows up his base and slides on down a hill. Man, that never gets old. I'm always happy to see that little reference. I can't wait to see that on the big screen. But yeah, like I was saying, Tails gives him a call and lets him know that the Deadly Six are back, and the Chaotix have narrowed down their next targets to be Winterburg and Sunset City, which is super convenient for Sonic, as he is already right next to Winterburg, which gives him a chance to chill out while he's waiting for the Six to arrive, which, as we already know, is probably not going to happen. As part 2 of the story kicks off, we see that, yeah, the heroes react exactly as the Deadly Six want them to, as Jewel has coordinated with the heroes that we know in different cities where we expect the Six to attack. The Chaotix are in Sunset City, Tails is in Central City, and Sonic in Winterburg. But they're not just waiting to ambush the Six. Tails, of course, was anticipating to run into them again, as they were all aware that they were still on the loose on their world. So he's been hard at work at creating the Zeti Zapper. What this basically does is turn their electromagnetic powers against them, which disables them in the process. And once these are attached to the Zeti, they'll be placed on the Zeti launcher, which is just the Tails rocket from Sonic 4. That's awesome. So yeah, the hero's battle plan is basically just capture the Six, stuff them aboard a rocket, and send them back to the Lost Hex, where they will no longer be their problem. But unfortunately, they do have other issues that they're not quite aware of yet. That being the ever annoying, the ever persistent Dr. Starline. He's currently trying to figure out how to enter Restoration HQ, specifically for Belle. He only had a brief encounter with her over at White Park, but as everybody else who's been a tech head has noticed so far, is that she has a very unique build. So of course, Starline is very interested, and we'll find out specifically why later on in this story. And something I should have clarified when we first talked about the new Restoration HQ, I did compare it to the Freedom Fighters, but it's not exactly like the Freedom Fighters, at least the early Freedom Fighters. They're not actually in hiding. They are a known force in this world. They do have a main entrance. They are basically a military compound. The tool shed that we saw Sonic and Tails utilize was just a secret backdoor. The same secret backdoor that Starline has managed to stumble upon himself. And once he gets in in there and does a little bit of tinkering. He manages to deduce how you get in there, and yeah, he's heading into Restoration HQ. And he's probably not going to have too many problems sneaking around in there, because as that's happening, the front entrance is being greeted by a flaming truck. Now that the heroes are scattered, the Deadly Six have arrived, and they're not wasting any time getting to work. We were just introduced to this place, and the Zeti are immediately beginning to tear it down. There is a security force there, but they really don't stand much of a chance against these guys, or against these Sonic Adventure references. How does it make you feel, guys, seeing one of the Deadly Six do the adventure pose? But Zavok is a little confused. He was expecting a bit more of a fight here, and Ian uses this moment to kind of establish what this world is all about, saying that the people of this world cherish peace, they live in complacent harmony, and are only occasionally disturbed by Eggman. And on those occasions, they rely on their heroes. Outside of that, they see no need to prepare for violence, which, I mean, it's an explanation, sure. I love that they're using the Six of all characters to critique the world setup here. But yeah, while they're causing chaos, we move back to Starline. And as you can imagine, he's none too pleased to learn that Zavok is still alive, but he uses this distraction to his advantage, and he carries on with his search for Belle. The Restoration's not completely defenseless though. We still have Tangle and Whisper there to defend them, and Jewel is quick to recall the heroes, which are all scattered about the place. We see the Chaotix on the move, we see Tails trying to call Sonic, who is already on the way. Holy cow. I haven't mentioned this yet for part 2 specifically, because all the art for IDW has been, for the most part, pretty fantastic, but Tracy Yardley does make his return with the interiors for this, and it just looks so good. He did that infamous Sonic zooming across the country to attack Eggman back in Archie, and he's back yet again to show us what a pissed off Sonic can do, which is a lot of fun to see. We move back over to Restoration, where Zaman has made his way over to the workshop, where we have the yet unnamed orangutan and Belle, but Starline is quick to dismiss him with his hypnosis abilities and sends him on his way. The orangutan pops out to thank him, but Belle is quick to point out that Starline is indeed a bad guy. I gotta say, it is nice to see that Belle is back in the workshop. I thought she'd be kicked out for good. And not only that, the orangutan tries to defend Belle, but unfortunately Starline makes quick work of him and tells Belle to come along willingly, otherwise, bye-bye orangutan man. So of course, that's exactly what happens. Belle goes along with the evil platypus. We turn our attention back to Sonic as he just arrives, but unfortunately not in time to catch Belle, as he just misses Starline walking her over to the elevator. Oh man. The Zeti are trying to make their way through a pair of steel doors, which is where Jewel is residing. Zala manages to open a small hole, and Zavok says he'll take it from there. I love this line. Such a curious tomb. The living are inside. Let's fix that. Well, before he can fix that, he and the rest of the Six are met with a spin attack as Sonic has finally arrived with some of the best art Tracy has ever given the character. Oh my god, I love this. And that is where part 2 ends. Part 3, I'll be honest, is a pretty brutal fight by IDW Sonic standards. It is Sonic versus all 6 of them at the same time, and I do love his banter here, saying you couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? Had a whole world to explore and enjoy, and you just had to pick a fight. Tangle is doing her best to join the fight, but she can't open the door. Sonic says they'll need Tails' help to do that, but in the meantime, he'll keep them busy. It might take a little while before Sonic can get back up from his friends, but thankfully Whisper does have something to work with that little hole that Zama made. She has Tangle brace her with her tail, and she just starts shooting the Six through the hole in the door. That's awesome. So yeah, we have Sonic fighting all of them. We got Whisper shooting at them. Green Lady tries to reach in and grab the gun, but gets socked in the face by Tangle's tail. Fantastic. The next few pages are just some fun action, but Zavok eventually gets tired of all the shots from Whisper and turns his electromagnetic abilities towards the door, which messes up her mask and Wispin. Tangle shoots out her tail to react, which is just grabbed by Zavok, and she's slammed up against the door. Oh my god. We turn our attention back to Sonic, who is still taking on Zaz, who just doesn't know when to quit. I'm pretty sure he's quoting Lost World here with the tear it up nonsense. Sonic tries to tell him to stop, you're done. Zaz says he's not done till he's dead, but Sonic just knocks his ass to the ground saying, nah, you're done. And unfortunately, he's socked in the face by Zavok, who says that he admires his tenacity. For what is perseverance, if not a lesser form of ruthlessness? Ian just writes Zavok so good. Oh my god. But yeah, Sonic unfortunately is starting to get a bit worn out here. He does spin dash away from another swipe from Zavok, but unfortunately is kicked back towards the Zeti, who grabs Sonic while he's a spinball and slams him into a wall. Sonic, you just have no luck when you try to spin dash into burly red dudes. Zavok commends him again, saying that Sonic is a mighty warrior, the most challenging they have ever faced, but challenges are meant to be overcome. And we actually get some genuinely good sass from Sonic here. You're bitter your poetry circle didn't like your stuff. I get it. Can we jump to the part where you actually do something? Goodness gracious, I love this. The fight continues on, but unfortunately Sonic is quickly subdued by Zamom. Zavok tells him to hold him steady while he goes and attacks the heart of the HQ, but thankfully, Tails has finally arrived and puts the first of his Zeti zappers onto Zamom. Tails hands off the others to Sonic and he quickly manages to subdue the rest of the 6, all except for Zavok, who again gets a hold of Sonic and smashes him to the ground. And this again is another bit of redemption for Tails, as Zavok holds up Sonic by his head and mocks Tails, saying that you're out of tricks, boy, now what? And Tails responds by saying, I'm going to use the skills that Sonic taught me, that's what. And he spin dashes into Zavok's gut. But unfortunately, Zavok grabs a hold of the tiny fox and slams him into the wall. Again, there's no blood, but this is really rough for these guys. This is awesome. And Zavok holding the fox, his tiny body in one hand, while Sonic in his other weakly tries to reach out to his best friend. He says to the little fox, and now your skills have failed. And Tails responds by saying, guess I'll just have to go back to my tricks then. As he's held the last of his zappers under his tail and smacks it onto Zavok. Oh, and I guess there was one more left and he goes and hits Zor with it. I completely forgot that idiot was there. Why did they leave that for last? Did they just forget to draw that early? What is this? What? But yeah, that was a really brutal fight, featuring the deadly 6 of all characters. And as brutal as it was, it shows the brotherhood of Sonic and Tails so beautifully here. But unfortunately, it's not cause for celebration quite yet. We have one more problem to deal with. The orangutan has gotten back up and has made contact with Jewel. And Tangle tells Sonic that Belle has been kidnapped by Dr. Starline. Part 4 kicks off in the ruins of Emeraldville, which I assume are just the town ruins that surround Restoration HQ. Sonic has gathered the 6 out front where Tails has brought along his rocket, and they'll soon be returned to Lost Hex. But not before one last conversation between Sonic and Zavok. Zavok asks them what's to become of the 6, and Sonic simply says, we're sending you home. And as we've been learning through this whole story, Zavok is just utterly confused at the very thought of compassion. And Tails explains to them what we already know. The rocket's gonna take them back to Lost Hex, and at that point, the zappers will self-destruct. But Zavok just laughs at the thought of mercy. He says that he will make Sonic regret showing restraint. This moment of compassion will be repaid tenfold in violence and misery. And at this point on the page, we flash back to all these different spots in the Metal Virus where Sonic is called out for being too lenient on his enemies. First by Shadow, then by Espio. Go back even further to when Metal Sonic was fully repaired, and when Eggman and Sonic finally met up again for the first time after he had been restored from his Mr. Tinker persona. Sonic looks back at all of those moments, and he responds with a smirk on his face to Zavok, saying that he is not going to sacrifice his principles out of fear. If Zavok wants to cause more trouble, fine. Waste your time, because Sonic will kick his butt every time. And Zavok says that he can respect that, and they carry on with their merry way. Now, I have gone on and on and on about this, about Sonic being way too compassionate, about how he has some sort of responsibility to everything he's done, this and that and the other. Sonic is not completely in the right with this, and I'm pretty sure that Flynn is aware of that as well. I feel like he just had to address this crazy cycle that Eggman and Sonic are in, and how it affects the rest of the world. This is here to simply explain Sonic's point of view on the entire thing here, and it's also kind of addressing that this story arc, this particular line of questioning, is over. We're laying it to bed. This is how Sonic perceives the world. This is his principles, and this is how he carries on as a hero. Is Sonic absolutely correct? Is he making the perfect choice every single time? It's not important. That's not the point here. Like I said way back then, they're not going to portray Sonic as a killer. That's just not going to happen. And that's fine. I did critique Sonic's thought process on this whole thing, but I feel like that was kind of the point of all of this. It could be further explored, and maybe someday they they will tackle this kind of morality situation again. I don't know, but to me, these first few pages are simply wrapping up the last little bit of threads that were left with the metal virus. That being the Zeti, and again, that being the moral conundrum that Sonic found himself in with the metal virus. And if nothing else, I do appreciate that Flynn is going in and wrapping up all the stuff that he started way back in the early days of this series. But I've rambled on about that long enough. Let's carry on with the story because this is just the first couple pages. We're done with the Zeti. We gotta go deal with Starline. So while the heroes look for their friend, we cut back over to Starline and Belle themselves, as she's waking up and finding herself strapped to a lab table with her head open and her hat's on Starline's head. Oh no! Belle is obviously freaked out, and for good reason, and Starline says, finally, you have the most obtuse startup routine. But then again, that unorthodox design is precisely why he sought her out. And Belle says she's nothing special, she just repairs stuff and mess things up. No, always in that order. I love that cute little reference to Transformers behind Starline there. But yeah, he's not really interested in what she does on a day-to-day basis. He's far more interested in what makes her tick. He says he's not here to disassemble Belle, as she is a unique, incredibly complex piece of art. He wouldn't dare risk damaging her. Despite their falling out, he still holds Dr. Eggman's work in high esteem, which sets off Belle, as she says that she wasn't built by Eggman. And Dr. Starline uses this moment to further break little Belle's heart, as he explains to her what we readers have known for a long time now. And basically that he is the one responsible for bringing Dr. Eggman back. In other words, Dr. Starline is the one who killed Belle's father. And we see a side of the puppet we have yet to see. She is furious as she screams at Starline, "You took my father away from me." But Starline has not responded to any of these emotions. He doesn't see her as a person. He sees her, again, as a work of art. All he cares about is how she is built, because there's something about her design that he wants to use for himself. And when he sees Belle react, all he says is, such passion, such realistic emotional simulation. He wants this reaction out of her. And this gives us some backstory that we are already aware of. We know about Mr. Tinker's story, but at the same time, it is kind of retconning her own story, as we had not seen her at any point while he was Mr. Tinker, and a lot of fans had been asking, well, where was she? And again, we don't know for sure when she was created. Not entirely important, but this does address why she doesn't live in Windmill Village. And that's basically because once the metal virus did drop and Dr. Eggman had returned, and eventually the villagers were changed back to normal, they came to see Belle as a potential threat, another Eggman robot. They took down everything Mr. Tinker had built. They yelled at her every time she tried to fix anything around town, so she eventually ran away and eventually ran into Sonic and Tails at the abandoned Eggman base, and we know the story from there. We cut back to the present, and as we quickly find out, Starline didn't actually care about any of that. He was just reading her brain as she was telling these stories. All he cared about was seeing if he could physically measure her emotions. Basically, she has an artificial intelligence that is unmatched. A sense of purpose and belonging rendered in beautiful, replicable code. Yeah, he's basically going to use everything he learned from Belle and apply it to something else he's working on. Something we're aware of if you're caught up with the comics, but we'll talk about another day. But while he's caught up in his own nonsense, Belle is let loose by an unseen force. We can see for ourselves that it's a cloaked Espio, but Belle doesn't see that. So when Espio says to keep quiet and they'll escape while he's distracted, she freaks out and says, on top of all of it, they're ghosts? So yeah, she blew Espio's cover. So Vector decides to quit sneaking around and bust the door down. But Starline doesn't seem super worried about it. This isn't actually his base. He has all the data he needs, and he destroys any evidence that the heroes could bring back. And with his Tricore, he easily outmaneuvers the Chaotix. And as he stands at the doorway, he says, better luck next time, detectives. And Miss Belle, thank you. You've been very helpful. And with that, he speeds off with Espio and Charmy giving chase. But Vector stays behind to comfort the once again broken-hearted Belle. The Vector says, like, literally, because maybe Tails can fix that. Oh, this poor girl just cannot catch a break. And yet, the book ends with the Six returning to Lost Text and swearing revenge. Good for them, yada yada yada. That's great. Overall, not the craziest story in the world, but it is nice to get a little more closure on everything that they had built up in the metal virus. I know a lot of people were sick and tired of the Deadly Six, but Ian writes them so well that I don't really mind it all that much. Again, he gives some awesome quotes for Zavok. So yeah, we finally closed a chapter on the Six. As good as Ian writes them, I don't really need them back for quite a long time. And it is nice to see this consistency between Ian and Evan, even with their own unique characters. Ian handed off Starline and Tangle over to Evan, and in turn Evan handed over Belle and that orangutan dude over to Ian, and I could not tell who wrote what unless you pointed it out to me. It's that seamless. So it's nice to see that consistency between a couple of people who've worked with each other for quite a while, and it is nice to see some of Evan's art in this arc as well. And it does look like we shift over from the trauma of Whisper over to the trauma of Belle. It was really interesting to see Starline and Belle finally interact, and man, it's just done so masterfully. Like I said about the last story arc, you're not going to see a great deal of character growth in the game characters, so seeing this progression with Belle is great, and also seeing the Chaotix again. I always forget how much I miss them until they actually show back up, and I think this is the first time they've interacted with Belle, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, overall I liked it, and I didn't expect to like it that much because when this was first coming out, I just was not excited to see the Six again. But looking back, we had a lot of great moments. We got a really intense fight, we got some fantastic character interactions, some beautiful pieces of art, and again, if you can make the Deadly Six interesting, you probably have a good writer on your hands. So yes, if the story in the next Sonic game sucks, then we know for sure it is not the writer's fault. Yeah, I gotta say, I'm really excited to see that Ian Flynn is on Sonic Frontiers after reading this again. But that is going to do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and an extra special thank you to these amazing patrons right here: Kyle Winter, Surus the Skeptic, Joseph Duncan Sonic 2 Blue, John, Josh Strider, The Deadly Zeti, Faizan Razul, Zanderoni the Painter, Trey Nobles, Hatsworth, Nick S, Tristan Trapp, Meekers, Dun Dun, Miles the Prower, Jeremy Singer, Mr. Boo J, Rain, Sam Webster, Dwight Graham, Fish Flop, Lucas Lipker, The Bad Pal, Shoden, Mr. SP, Cecil the Glade, The Dark Neon, Missing No, Stefan Plakanica, 3 Monic, Graham J Hall, Lennick the Game Apologist, Wayne is Boss, Letterick, 64 Bits, David 20 Cover Your Eyes, Ryan Rolfs, The Lumberjack, Otis Small, ya boy, Shifting Flesh, Mute, Trash Baphomet, Autumn from Twitter.com, SSG Infinite Sonic, That Pyra Main, Muy Saxy, Jinsei Otome, and Cunning Wise. Guys, thank you so much for all the support, and of course, thank you to everybody else you're seeing on the screen right now. This show would not happen without their support. And if you want to pitch in, hey, thank you. You'll get these videos early. I'm doing commentaries for all my old videos. Just got my second one out the door. That's going to remain Patreon exclusive. I also got a new show in the work that, at least for now, is going to remain Patreon exclusive. And for everybody who's been so patient with me, waiting for me to get back to video games, do not worry, that is coming very soon. I just like to do these videos in batches. They're much faster to do that way. And I just want to get us caught up on IDW. We'll be shifting focus with speed reading. We'll be doing more Sonic video games. I am going to be covering some other video games outside of Sonic as well. I don't know if you know, but Klonoa is coming back, and I really got to talk about it. And of course, March is coming up sooner rather than later, and we have a certain marathon to get to. So if you stuck around till the end, and if you're not subscribed, then what are you waiting for? There's clearly a lot here to check out. Like buttons and bells, all that stuff helps in ways that you might not even be aware of, but seriously, it tells the almighty algorithm that we're doing something right, and it helps any channel grow. Seriously, outside of me, if there's any other creator that you support, those simple clicks help us out immensely. So please, if you can help me out, if you can help out other people, we all greatly appreciate it. We love making content for you. But yeah, that's enough e-begging, and that's enough thank yous for now. I gotta get back to work on a whole lot of other stuff, so until next time, toot toot, Sonic Warriors.